all set. No more questions about the paperwork or the kind of process we have here or the confidentiality. I did have another question for you though, before we formally started, if that's okay. Remember when you made the appointment? You called and made the appointment. You were asked to observe if you noticed any positive changes between the time that you made the appointment and the time that you came in the area of concern. Did you see any what we call pre-treatment change that changed in a positive direction?
No, everything's basically the same.
Okay, well, now that we're in here today, I was wondering if I could share with you the best hope. What would be your best hope for today? What would be some signs that things are beginning to get a little better?
I'm really looking for balance in my life. I'm divorced, I'm the mother of two, I'm a student, and I'm working full time. So I'm trying to find another way to put a dating relationship into the mix, trying to have some balance with dating.
So you're already juggling an impressive amount of activity and priorities, children, work, school. I was wondering if you could tell me what are some qualities or skills, what are some things that you're already doing to help you achieve that successful balance that you have now?
Well, for the things that are already in place, work is essential. School, I'm passionate about, and the kids. I just love spending time with them. But there's a lot of things that I don't do. I don't do a lot of things just for myself. Most of the time is spent with my girls or at school or with work.
Okay, so to make the balance you have now be reasonably successful, if that's accurate to say, use time management skills, it sounds like. If that's accurate, some discipline and self-sacrifice, and you prioritize and make sure that you spend the time in the areas that are of value to you. Would that be an accurate summary?
Yes.
Have you been able to do any? Have you able to do that any time in the past with a dating relationship?
Actually, no. I meet people all the time. As a matter of fact, I met someone on my way here, and he actually asked if we could meet later for what he called a cookie. And he's Jamaican. He had this cute little Jamaican accent, and I immediately felt overwhelmed. And I remembered I didn't have a sitter, and then I felt relieved.
Okay, so you had a situation where the possibility of a dating relationship came up, and you had some what sounds like strong, unpleasant feelings about feeling overwhelmed, perhaps in lieu of that balance that you're trying to create. I'm wondering, looking at times where the balance has been working for you, if there's anything that you've added recently that's now part of your balance, but wasn't there a little while back, where you had a previous balance of all the important things you kept going. Anything you've added recently that's now part of the balance that's working?
Well, yes, I just recently entered a graduate program, and I've been able to add that into our already busy lives. But that's a little different. I can kind of manipulate my schedule so that I'm just only have the house and too many nights a week, or I spent a lot of time trying to make sure that doesn't affect my schedule with the girls.
Okay, so to me that's still impressive, even though there's some difficulties that you've identified that you've had. Would it be accurate to say a busy but successful balance previously for something you decided you wanted to do? And to work toward the graduate degree that you're presently pursuing, you're able to make the new balance transition to the new balance. What are some of the things you did to help the balance remain acceptable to you while working on something new it's a fairly big commitment?
Well, I think that, for the most part, mostly it's just the time management I was able to control by scheduling a little bit more. It seems like with a dating relationship, I don't have that control because it's another person's schedule that's also involved.
Okay, so certainly with you being able to pick your classes to some degree, I mean you don't have control over it perhaps. I'm guessing when they're offered, unless it's an independent study or unless you know something that most students don't, I'm guessing you control when projects are due, or you can't control when projects are due or how big they are, so that you don't have control over that either. And then the other pieces that you don't have control over, you make work through your time management skills. So it's a combination of elements you can control and managing those that are not quite in your control. Would that be accurate?
Exactly.
Okay, well I'm going to ask something that's referred to as a miracle question. And it's common to folks who do solution-focused work. And I'd ask you to envision a future using your imagination a bit. Would you mind if I ask you that?
No, not at all.
Okay, so let's pretend that after you leave here and go through the rest of your day successfully and you go to sleep at night, have a restful night, and you wake up in the morning, and lo and behold, the problem's gone. The solution for your wish is actually in place. I'm going to ask you to pretend if there was a camera following you before this wasn't working, a camera that only you could see, and now tomorrow morning there's a camera that follows you for a while and pictures this new balance that it is exactly what you want. If we're to bring this in and look at two tapes, what would we see? What would jump out to us as the different in the second tape that we didn't see in the first? Tell me about this new balance. Can you describe it?
I think picturing that I would be in a successful relationship and still have all the other elements of my life working just fine. And that's part of the problem. I can picture the end result. I would like the successful relationship, but it's just getting there that I have the hard time with.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is you saying now that there's hope, and that there is a future where this established relationship is working. So we can look successfully at co-creating the solution where you get to the point, the preliminary stages to work it out well. So when somebody with a cute accent asks for a cookie, perhaps can get to the last stage. Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
Okay, so I'd like you to use numbers for a second here. If 10 would be that image that you just described, where it's already working, where things are in balance and the relationship established, and 1 would be a place where it's abysmal and there's nothing working at all, where would you rate yourself?
I would have to say that I'm a 1.
Okay, and can you describe why you're at a 1 now?
I don't see any signs of success. I don't think I'm that I'm dating successfully at all.
Okay, so you're at 1 now, plenty of room to grow, that's okay. And looking at the next step, not necessarily biting off the next big piece, but what about small changes leading to bigger changes down the road? What would a 2 look like? If you could picture yourself successfully at a 2, what would that look like?
I think that a 2 would be just having someone that I could go out with every now and then, someone that I would talk to maybe a couple times a week, maybe once a week or every other week, just go out very casually.
Okay, so it sounds like a key point for you to go from 1 to a 2 would be the pacing of a new relationship. That it wouldn't be too demanding on your already busy success balance you already have. So the pacing of that relationship would be acceptable to you. Okay, do you have any non-dating relationships that are of some importance to you where that pacing is successful? Where do you have that kind of pacing that fits the balance?
I do actually. I have friends that are platonic, people even some that I've dated in the past that now we're just friends. And so yes, we do lunch maybe once or twice a month, and we do talk on the phone maybe once or twice a week.
Okay, so having that pacing in other relationships outside of family, work, and school, you have success with that already. What would it take for a dating relationship to have the pacing you successfully have with other relationships? What might be involved there? How might that look?
I think I need to be dating someone who is busy too, someone who also has a full life.
And if that person had a full life, how would that be helpful to you in achieving the pacing you would like? That is acceptable and not overwhelming.
I think that we would be able to maybe balance our schedules so we wouldn't have the guilt or feel the pressure of needing to be available so much for each other.
Okay. Well, if I could kind of summarize where we are now and see if you're in agreement with what I'm seeing so far, maybe we can look at what we want our next step to be. If, you're busy, sounds like a successful person in terms of balancing many important pieces in your life, work and children, family and school that you've picked up and added recently. You recently experienced a successful transition to a new balance, and you want to add something new, like as you added graduate school. Although there are some differences, perhaps some of the skills would be similar in terms of achieving a new balance. You can use some of the same skills, perhaps. And you want to look at a relationship that has pacing, if that term's okay, that isn't overwhelming. And you have examples of relationships that are important and have the kind of successful pacing or agreeable pacing that works for your balance. So what I hear is that while certainly this is a dilemma and that there's work to be done to get you to the 2 and beyond, some of the pieces that want to have place being there are already there. Here's what I see already in place that we can draw from these strengths. As I summarize that fashion, how does that sound to you?
It actually makes me feel very hopeful.
Okay, because why?
Just being able to look at it from that aspect, just knowing that maybe I do already have the skills in place and thinking of ways that I can actually employ what I already have.
So perhaps that can be our next step in our time together. Looking how to use the skills that you already mentioned, having all the strengths, all the experiences that work for you to be successful, and use those to move from a 1 to a 2 and perhaps beyond if you wish. How does that sound?
Perfect.